Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Cleaning Lady. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of everything. Your boy, Marco is on a winning streak for a little while, but that winning streak comes to an end because the house always wins. Apparently he was up $100,000, but he immediately lost it all. And the moment you see it keeps going and going, you're like, oh, dude. That's why I'm like, what did you expect was going to happen when you took out that $20,000 from when you stole that money? Because he's probably thinking like, no, not even thinking. He says like, oh, I did it for Lucas' sake. It's like jeopardizing the money they need to pay the lady to get his organ. Like, how is that? You could have lost it all. But he's trying to say, like, oh, I'm tired of your judgment. She has every right to judge you under these circumstances. Like, but the thing is, he's an addict. He doesn't reckon, like, he's so being like, no, I'm not in the wrong. Like, because he justifies it by being, see, I got $25,000. It's like, well, at the very least, she probably would have been, it still wouldn't have made things better, but at least you could have walked away with $100,000. But it was pride. Like, the fact is, he's like, no, Lucas, my son, I'm going to have some other man taking care of my wife and my son. It's like, obviously, like, it's his ego being like, oh yeah, there's something there. Which, yes, there's something there, but you should be putting your son's, like, health first and foremost. And even, but for Tony, it's like, really, like, how is you putting our son's health first, like, considering the fact that you jeopardize everything? Yes, he kept that $25,000. He's like, yeah, I kept it for Lucas. So it's like, it doesn't mean anything. You lost everything else. It doesn't matter if, like, oh, I came up with $5,000 extra. It's like, no, you should have never gambled with that money in the first place. It's like, and then, like, you know, Fee's like, yeah, but at least he set aside that money for Luca. And Tony's like, you don't know how bad things got. We nearly lost our house because of, like, mortgage-related stuff, because he borrowed money without letting me know. We don't have any friends anymore because he borrowed money from them and didn't pay it back. Like, his issue, and she's like, again and again and again and again, I believed he could change, and because of that, I gave him chance after chance. So, look on Fiona's face, it's like, yeah, she didn't know how bad it had gotten. Because obviously, she's going to defend him a little bit. It's like, I want to smack some sense in him too, but, you know, as my brother, it's like, maybe he just needs some understanding and sympathy because of it. But it's like, no, I've given him understanding and sympathy time and time again, even going as far as saying like, yeah, I told you coming to Vegas wasn't a good idea for you. But in his mind, it's just a thing of, no, she's just saying that because it's like, yeah, how dare she like try to like make it seem like, oh, her rolling with a criminal is any better than my gambling. It's like, it's apples and oranges, but still it is a thing of, yeah, that is the thing. Like, Armand has done nothing to ever threaten Luca. In fact, all he's done is help. You being here obviously kind of put that, like, Luca's life in danger. Like, if anything had gone wrong, it would have been on you. Because even I was like, man, you're acting super nonchalant about, like, yeah, I was up $100,000, but then I had a bad run of things. I'm like, you're super nonchalant about losing all that money. But he's like, no, I came out with a $5,000 profit after losing $75,000, like, of the other. I'm surprised, I can't believe it took me that long to do that method in my head. Regardless. So, she ends up having to turn to Armand because it's like, right, she has a $25,000, but 20 of that needs to go to Dara. She still needs a $40,000 to go to Mexico to actually pay for everything. Which she's like, yeah, at the very least, I might not get all the money I need from the deal, but that's enough money. Like, that's still enough wiggle room where I could give you that money necessary for the surgery. So, and it also benefits him because it's like, right, FBI doesn't have jurisdiction. So it's like, yeah, it's a two-way thing, like, two birds, one stone. Like, he gets to sell his guns and disappear, and she gets to get the surgery for Luca. Marco's not too happy about it, but it's just kind of like, right, you want to be his father, act like his father, and do what's best for your son. Like, we're going to put our issues, our marriage aside, because this is about taking care of our son. And then at the same time, there's a whole thing with your boy Garrett making moves. Like, obviously, like, ATF wants to take over the operation, but he's like, no, this is important to me. Like, I guess it's just because all the time he's put into this case. It might also just be, like, after loss, like, after, like, the job that basically, the case ended up ruining his reputation, he needs a big win. He was winning a little bit, but then, like, the fruit thing, the watermelon stuff kind of set him back a little bit, but that's why he wants this Hayek and Armand case, because if he can bust them, it's going to, raise his stock again, and he's going to be able to be in a better position because he's going to get a little more renown. Like, he's going to be back in it, like, his, at least to some form of glory and not be kind of the disgrace he's kind of seen as. So basically, he wanted to try and use Tony to lure Armand to a farmhouse or whatever to bust him. But sadly, Tony's not in the country. And the moment he rolled up at Fiona's house, I was like, oh my God, he's going to run into Marco, and Marco's going to be an idiot and run his mouth. Because I was like, Marco's going to think he's doing the best. But to be fair, it's like, yeah, interfering now would jeopardize Luca's chances, so I don't think he would do that. But thinking he could get Tony out of all of this, and like, Garrett making a promise, which doesn't mean that's completely off the board. That might be something in the near future, but I thought that's what was going to go down. But Fiona wasn't talking. She was like, get out of here, Tony's not here. So, and he noticed that Luca wasn't here, so he's like, all right, so where is she? Which, him doing that could have jeopardized everything. It's like, yeah, you're definitely not Tony's not the biggest fan of you, and that definitely would have, I mean, even he acknowledged when Fee was like, yo, get out of here, because it's like, yeah, I get it, you're not my biggest fan. And she's like, dude, do you even think about Gabby's children that have to grow up without their mother because of you? He's like, yeah, that ice raid thing I did was kind of jacked up. It's like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, like, I'm feeling like that lately, like the word she used, that she was like, yeah, in the Philippines we have like a certain word for you, which I'm like, he's like, oh, I've been feeling like that. I'm like, shut up. You're focused on your glory and stuff like that. He does regret it at the time, but it's like, it's water under the bridge, because now I get to take advantage of this situation to help me in the long run. So it's like, he's not getting too caught up in the whole, oh, I feel bad about this. To some extent, maybe, but I'm like, nah, he's just looking out for what benefits him in the long run. I also love the whole Nadia thing, too. The moment he was like, yo, I'm going to go to Mexico and sell those guns, he's like, oh, what about the $500,000 you were going to give to that cleaning lady? He's like, no, all the money I'm making is going to go towards us. Which was true, but you knew the moment he, like, selectively didn't mention the fact is Tony was going, because he knew that if he even mentioned that, Nadia was not going to be okay with it. And the fact is, he hid it. He could have been like, right, this is for her son's sake. Like, Nadia wouldn't have been okay with it. Especially because he went out of his way to be like, I need you to stay here to keep Hayek busy, which is true, but if he wanted things to be copacetic, he should have brought her along, which I'm sure Nadia wouldn't have appreciated that either. Which is sad, because her and Tony seemed like they were going to hit it off as friends, but lo and behold, look where they are now. It's like, oh, like, Nadia views Tony as the other woman, so, which, don't get it twisted, there is a little bit of that there. Especially when Armand and her were, like, dancing together, like, when they were in Mexico listening to the music. So I thought that was fascinating. Obviously, the conversation is what Tony's going to do, like, after the surgery, because it's like, does she plan on going back to the Philippines? But for her, it's like, it doesn't feel like home anymore. And she obviously doesn't want to go back to Vegas 100% because there's just too much bad associated with it. She's like, yeah, maybe not all bad, wasn't it? She's like, no, there was some good. So I thought that was kind of sweet. Them dancing, and I'm like, at first I was like, is someone going to roll up on you and, send a picture to Nadia? It's like, no, you don't have to worry about that. Your boy Garrett did his thing and be like, oh, why is she in Mexico with your husband? And was like, oh, you bastard, steering the pot. Once again, he's just a selfish prick. It's like, I don't care about all this stuff. I'm going to get my case. I'm going to do what I need to do. So he knew steering the pot would be, because he wanted to know why Tony was in Mexico. He's going to feel kind of like a dick when he's like, oh, you were getting surgery for your son. I jeopardized all that, huh? He'll try and sweep it under the run, be like, hey, I'm sorry about that, but blah, 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 blah. Like, he's going to try and justify all that. But it kind of backfired. The moment Nadia went back home, I was like, oh, she's going to tell Hayek the truth. Which she didn't go. I thought she was going to burn all the bridges. It's like, I figured the lie was going to be like, yeah, he lied to me. Actually, Hayek, I found out he's actually in Mexico trying to sell your guns, and came to tell him the truth herself. It probably would have benefited her in the long run, except when he came to her being like, hey, I heard that Armand, I called his father to give my condolences for his sister, but it's like, no, they just celebrated her 70th birthday, so where is Armand? It's like, she had no choice then, so it made Hayek be, like, less likely to trust her. I think he still has his doubts, but she probably sold it enough to be like, yeah, like the whole having an affair with Tony thing did kind of solidify it, but it probably would have been better in the long run if she had actually gone to Hayek herself, which, like I said, I thought she would, but she was just packing up and leaving yet again. So he gets called back to the U.S., in particular Vegas, gets confronted by Hayek being like, oh, I can't believe you were having this affair, which in Armand's mind, it's like, I'm doing this and saying this even though we're not having an affair, even though there's a little bit of a spark between us. We haven't slept together. We have kissed twice now, but it's just for the purpose of, I know if I don't keep up with this lie, Hayek is going to kill both of us, so And he tries to explain it to Nadia, but it's like, regardless of you haven't slept with her, there's still something there, because it's like, right, you like being her hero. Like, the fact is the way she looks at you anytime you do some good. Now, that could be a two-pronged thing. In one regard, of Hayek feels good about doing something for Luca, because it's like, right, despite all the bad stuff that he's done, that he can at least do some good in the world. But that kind of gets overshadowed, because it's like, right, you like Tony and you like her looking at you like you're a hero, and not because he was super upset when she confronted him about being like a criminal. And it's like, wait, what? You think I'm such a bad guy, and then like you keep turning to me for help? You know, he immediately was like, yeah, don't come to me for help. But the moment she asked the next time, he immediately, like, without second thought, was like, yeah, sure, okay. So it kind of sours it a little bit to be like, yeah, you're only helping Luca because you like his mom, but you might not have the most altruistic reasons. But I mean, you are also a criminal, and she's co-signing like, oh, go to Mexico and sell your guns, because she's like, right, you're helping me. So she gave him the idea about going to Mexico to sell the guns. That way it's a 2-for-1 deal. So, because even Armand can't completely deny how he feels about Tony. Like, yeah, they might not have slept together, but that doesn't mean his feelings for her aren't true, you know? So you kind of feel bad for Nadia in that regard. Just like, you know, no one should ever be be under those circumstances. But it's not the only ones who seem to have like this spark situation going on, because apparently there's a whole Catherine and Garrett thing. Catherine talks about the fact is that her and Garrett, it's like, yeah, like back in the day, it used to be really good breaking the rules with you rather than being the one who has to clean up all the stuff that you break. And he's like, yeah. So it seems like there was something there. Because even she was like, right, you had it all. You had a wife and kids and the job. She's like, I had to sacrifice all that for the purposes of keeping my job, but you had it all and you managed to screw it all up. But it's like, right, regardless of what was there in the past, like, yeah, what we had was in the past. And he's like, yep, it is. So we just kind of leave it as is. Doesn't mean some of that might still not rekindle, because they had that, like, those sparks are still there, but that might have been them being like, no, we're putting a kibosh on that. Even if there's still something here, the past is the past, and we have to leave it at that for professional reasons. So, but I think everything's going to work out, luckily, for both Armand as well as Garrett, because I think Armand has found himself in a very advantageous situation. Sadly, Hayek now knows that he was lying. Carlos ended up telling him about the guns. I'm like, why didn't you lie? You could have told him the truth, because it's like, you could have been like, because Carlos was there, wasn't he? Like, not in Mexico, but he was aware of what Armand was doing. Maybe he didn't know about the Tony thing. I think he did. So it's like, he's there to help her get surgery for her son. Like, he could have easily have said that, but he told the truth about the guns. I'm like, why? Because to be fair, like, he kind of was like scared the moment. It's like, oh, maybe Nadia will tell the truth if she's in the chair. So Carlos, being loyal to Armand, was like, fine, like, I'm protecting the person he cares about. So sadly, Carlos, his loyalty got him a bullet in the head. Hayek's like, oh, I appreciate you telling me the truth. I'm like, yeah, I figured as much. And he still tries to kill Armand later on because he sets up a bomb and everything. But it's also like, yeah, you kind of brought this upon yourself. Armand has been nothing but loyal to you, but he knows that loyalty would not get him anywhere, because no matter what he does, it's never good enough in your eyes. So he's going to have to make some moves on his own, considering you won't recognize him. So kind of brought it upon yourself, Hayek, but still. But yeah, because of all that, I do believe if Armand plays his cards right, he can make Hayek be the one to take the fall for all of this. Like, working with Tony, they can make something happen so that it's like, right, Armand takes the fall. Because Armand, that Hayek can take the fall, because he does want Armand dead. He already attempted it now, so it's like, cool. Either I kill him or I get the FBI. Because if I could get the FBI to bust him, still sell the guns, but somehow, because obviously the FBI is going to make their move on the barn, which Hayek knows that's where the guns are. And now if he can orchestrate everything right, it's not going to benefit him in the long run, because he's still going to lose out on that $6 million, but it will benefit him in the sense that maybe Hayek will either die in a shootout or get arrested. Still, he's got a lot of power, pull, and connection, so even behind bars, he can probably still push for that, for Armand's death, which either Armand's going to take over the whole hotel thing in his wake, or Nadia's going to swoop in and make a name for herself and take control of this whole operation for herself, maybe? I don't know. Because obviously his daughter has no interest in all of this criminal side of things, so... Which that's definitely going to be interesting. I find it fascinating, too, that, like, they did set up the whole... Obviously, him and Isabel had their history. In fact, Tony saw him kissing her, even though she was married and everything. So it is interesting that didn't become more of a thing of like, yeah, because in fact, Tony's the other woman rather than Isabel being, because it's like they put their, much like Garrett and Catherine, it's like, yeah, we put our history to bed, one last kiss, saying our goodbyes type of thing, so. Other than that, like, other than all these complicated things of Garrett, like, putting his nose in everyone's business and kind of screwing everything up, which, if he hadn't done that, Tony wouldn't have called Armand, luckily enough, and he was distracted by, like, that guy came here, and luckily he was far enough away from his car when the bomb went off, so she delayed him enough that it was okay and it worked out. So doesn't mean he won't still have like a concussion, or shrapnel still wouldn't have hit him from being at least that distance away from the explosion, but it didn't straight up kill him. But in Mexico, I love that Tony, like, sadly, the place that she's getting Lucas surgery is like, yeah, it's a money buys your seat at the your position on the list, and so, which is interesting timing because obviously like a similar storyline is kind of brooding a little bit in The Walking Dead in certain regards with the Ezekiel thing, but Tony was like, right, my son is going to die without this transplant, and you're going to push him. He's like, yeah, but don't worry, it's going to be soon. It's like, shut up, dude. Like, she's like, right, you're trying to say your patients come first, but you're still in a position where, right, if someone has more money, they come first. So Tony kind of forced his hand, and like she made her son seem like he was sleeping, and then took the thing off to make it seem like his condition was bad, and was just kind of like, right, if you don't allow me to perform the surgery, because, right, your surgery's already done, like, give me one extra surgery, and I will go in there and do it myself. It's like, well, family members typically can't operate on family, which makes sense, because there has to be an objectivity to, like, being a doctor. Like, you have to kind of separate yourself from the patient. It's like, this person is a patient, which I think can come off being a little, like, lead to, like, an ego and that God complex thing within doctors, but also, it can also, like, make you stop seeing people as people and just like, yeah, this is just another, because obviously there's a whole thing about, like, yeah, when people are performing surgery, you hear the talk about, like, nurses and doctors, like, cracking jokes and stuff when they have people cut open. That's kind of, like, the word that's kind of gotten around. At least, you know, maybe that's not true, but that's always, like, a rumor I've heard. But I think there's even been instances of people having recorded, like, doctors and nurses talking mad shit, like, while the person's, like, under, like, anesthesia or something like that. Tangents and all that aside, my point is, like, when it comes to family members, though, like, you're not going to have that objectivity, because even Tony, it struck her, like, she was hesitant, because it's like, right, regardless of anything, like, yeah, I'm doing this to save my son's life, but I'm still in a situation where I'm having to cut open my baby boy. So, like, of course, that's going to strike a chord with her. Even when, luckily, the surgery went off without an issue, but she went out and cried afterwards. So, I think that was a combination of just all the feelings she was feeling. One, of, I had to do that to my boy, but two, oh my God, there's so much relief in knowing everything's okay, that he's going to be okay after everything. All her worries and concerns kind of melted, at least to some extent. So, it's just like that flood of emotions about all of that really hit her all at once. I think that's what those tears were about. Being scared and also happy, and just a flux of all those emotions. So regardless, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. I would assuming Nadia would end up taking Armand to the, like, at least to, like, Dr. Soroyan or something, but he's loyal to Hayek, so that could be an issue. But, like, despite everything, like, a car did blow up in your yard, so you're going to notice that, well, driveway, so you're going to notice that. So, despite everything, she'll probably help Armand, but the question is, like, if she probably takes him to a public hospital, people are going to start asking questions. That might even lead to, like, Garrett using this as an opportunity to sweep in. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.